Hello and welcome to another Ada County Elections online training video. My name is Mitch Lang and I'm the elections trainer for Ada County. And today we're going to talk about the electronic poll books. Now, every polling place is going to get one case of electronic poll books, and that's what this guy is here. So this is your electronic poll book case, and it houses both of your electronic poll book units. So just to get started opening on this up, when you're getting set up here in the morning, first thing you want to do is open it on up here, and you'll notice you have all of your items neatly packed all here inside for you. Okay, so here are your e-poll books. You have your two printers that will be used for receipt tapes for voters. You have your MiFi and extra styluses as well. So getting started for the setup, the very first thing that I'm going to do when we get this set up is take out your MiFi, okay, and this connects you to the internet. So everybody needs to make sure that we do this first up when we start setting up, because once you get your e-poll book set up, it'll connect automatically to the internet, making it really easy for that setup. So first off, how you turn this on, there's this power button up on the top right corner. So let's go ahead and press that and hold that for about 5 or so seconds, okay? And then it'll start to boot up just like this, okay? So while that's booting up, I'll go ahead and set that aside for a minute. And then next thing you'll want to do is take out your electronic poll book. So that's what this looks like here. So what I'm going to do is take it just like this, grab it from the side, open it on up, break the binding, and then set it up just like a book, okay? And so that'll face towards me. So I'll go ahead and get this other one set up just like I did the last one. Again, if you're looking directly at it, you'll grab it from this, the left side there, break the binding, set it up in front of you, and there you go. Now, of course, when you get to your polling place, you might use two separate tables to keep some extra space, but just for demonstration, I'm going to set both of these up right here next to each other. So, second thing I want to do is get my poll books connected to power. So what I'll do is I'll grab my 10-foot FireWire power cable. Okay, that's what this guy is here. I'll grab my power brick. And so you'll plug in the USB end here to the power brick on the AC adapter, just like this. And then I have my power strip down here I'll plug that into. All right. And then you take this end of the cable and then you plug it into what I call the bottom of the e-poll book, or the right side here. Okay, and so there's this little cable connector, and you just plug that on in just like this. Okay, and then it'll power on up knowing that it's ready to go. A couple other things to note here once you get it plugged in. Your power button is up here in the top left corner. So you can kind of see that cutout here on this end. And so you just tap and press that once if your screen goes dark, and then that'll bring it back up for you. Okay. Additionally, here on the bottom, you have your home button. Okay, so your home button can be used for a few different purposes, but that's where you'll go ahead and find that if you need it. It's really easy to find because you know that's where you actually plug in your power cable. All right, taking with the other e-poll book, just like I did with the last one, plugging this into the power brick here on the top, into the power strip, and again, taking the e-poll book, right here where that home button is where I'll plug this one in as well. Plug that in just like that. Perfect. Okay, now, the next thing that we'll do is set up your printers here. Okay, so again, each e-poll book has a printer that's specifically correlated with that unit. So if you notice here on your printer, you'll have this little sticker up on the top that has the precinct and also the number associated with that printer. Okay, and so if you actually take a look at the e-poll book as well, you'll notice here on the front of the case that it also has one of these stickers. Okay, and so you'll want to make sure that when you're setting this up, both the sticker on the e-poll book matches the sticker on your printer. Okay, this is because we paired them ahead of time for you, making it really easy for setup. So once you power it on, everything should connect automatically, as long as the stickers match the e-poll book to the printer. Now, next thing that I'll do to get my printer connected to power, I'll grab my 120-volt cable, just like this, and I'll go ahead and I'll plug this into my AC adapter, and then plug that into my power strip. All right. and you'll notice that'll power up right away. So I'll do the same thing here, just going through the motions of setting up both of them. Again, keeping an eye on these stickers, making sure that they match for the e-poll book. Put that there. You'll grab your 120 volt cable, just again, plug that into your power strip, or your power brick rather, and plug that onto the strip, just like this. Okay, so now I have both of my printers set up just like that. One other thing to note on this printer is that if you grab this gray lever here up on the top, you can actually go ahead and open that, and that'll open the inside of this printer, allowing you to replace the receipt tape if needed. So how you do that in case you get into the situation in which you need extra receipt tapes, if you notice here in your case, you'll have 2 extra tapes if you need it. So let's say that this one was running low, so I'll need to swap that out here and get my other one out. So you'll want to go ahead and release it just like this. And the way that you load this is that you leave the tape under the roll here, okay? And then you drop that into the bottom of the printer, just like this, okay? And then you take your little slip, feed it on this other end, and you close it, and it'll go ahead and automatically cut for you, and you're good to go. So that's an example. If you need to swap out that tape, most of the time we fill them up ahead of time for you, so it might not be needed, but just in case you have a lot of voters coming through and that's necessary, that's how you'll do that. So the last couple things that are in this case here is you have your power cable for your MiFi device. So to plug that in, it's very simple. All you need to do is find the bottom of your device here, take your USB Type-C, plug that right into the bottom, okay? And then plug this into power as well, okay? And then that way you'll make sure that it doesn't actually die throughout the day. Typically it lasts about 6 to 8 hours on battery power, so most of the day it should be okay, but plugging that in right in the morning is usually advisable, because that way, you'll know you're never actually run out of power and you'll be connected to the internet the whole time. So with that, there's your setup on your e-poll books. Okay, now that we have the electronic poll books set up, now it's time to practice using them. So, for purposes of this video, I'm using a mouse, just so you can see better here on the screen, but at your polling place, you'll either be using your fingers to move around the screen, or the provided stylus that we give you. Okay? So, for now, I just want to go over here what you see when you actually turn on the e-poll book. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we'll start there. That's where you'll find your asset ID number as well as your device ID. So this is important because if we're troubleshooting with you over the phone, if we're calling our office with a problem, we'll need to know what asset ID number you're working off of, and so you just need to know where to find it. Underneath that, you have the location at which you're working at. So in this case, if you see, we're here at Sienna Elementary School, which is precinct 2106. And over here on this end, this is your connection to the internet. So if you notice now, I have this orange caution triangle symbol, okay? Now, all you need to do to make sure that you're connected is go ahead and tap that icon, the orange icon, okay? And then that'll load in what we send a heartbeat, okay? So in this case, what that means, once you get that green check mark, is that you are connected to the internet. So if you're unsure, just go ahead and tap that icon, and that'll let you know if you're not. Now underneath that we have our printer connection. So as you can see, it is a green printer icon. So just to make sure I'm testing that okay, I'll go ahead and I'll tap that icon, and then I'll hit test, and then my little slip will print out, and I know that I am connected to my printer. To the right of that, you'll notice here we have voters. So that top number, the 273,000, is how many registered voters are currently in Ada County. Underneath that, you have 2,387. So that's how many registered voters are in the precinct that you're currently working at. To the right of that, you have the amount of check-ins that you're working off of. So that top number for check-ins is how many voters you've checked in at your individual unit, okay? What's below that is how many check-ins that have been processed between the two e-poll books, okay? Now for that, just know that at your location, that number may not go up right away as it syncs with our main server. So just know that it does take a few minutes for that to catch up usually. And then of course here we have our battery power, and I'm sitting there at 98% for battery. Okay, so up in this top right-hand corner, you'll notice what I like to call the 3-bar menu. Okay, and so this is important because it has a lot of different options for you. So once you get started and have your e-poll book set up at the polling place, you'll go ahead and you'll click that 3-bar menu, and then you'll go ahead and click on Poll Worker Payroll. Okay, so if you notice here, these are all the workers that I have in precinct 2106. So if I, for example, needed to clock in the morning, this is how I would do that. And so let's say, maybe I'm checking in here as Janice. So I'll go ahead and I'll click clock in. Okay. It'll have you verify your information. So you'll just want to do a quick check to make sure it all looks right. And then you'll hit yes, continue. And then it'll have you sign here. So I'll go ahead and sign that here just really quick. And you notice under that you have the oath for working the polls as a poll worker. And so you signing here and clocking in the morning is, doubles as you also taking your worker oath for the morning as well. So then I'll hit accept, and then I know that I've been clocked in because this green tag comes up here in the bottom. And then also once you get to the polls, you'll notice that once you're clocked in, this clock in note here will turn red and say clock out. So from there I'll hit back and get back to the start screen. So from here, I'll just go ahead and get logged in. So once you hit start, it'll ask you to put in your first and last name. So for me, I'll go ahead and type that in here just really quick, just like this. Okay, and then I'll tap continue. Okay, and then it'll say that the device is currently locked and ask you to enter your password. Now, in my example, my password is August 2020. However, once you get to the polls, you'll just need to make sure that you have that password handy so you know what that is when you log in. So then I'll hit continue. And then what it's going to do is search for the printer, make sure that I'm connected, and it says that it has actually found it. So from here, I've already tested it, so I'll just hit continue. And then we're into our home screen. So this is what it looks like when you are ready to process voters. So from here, once you have these 3 buttons showing up, the Find My Precinct, Manual Voter Search, and Driver's License / State ID Scan, this is when you're ready to go for that. So first up, in this scenario, maybe we have a voter coming in and they're just not quite sure where they need to vote. Maybe they actually saw the vote here signs and they just decided, hey, I'd like to vote, and they walked on in. So in that case, if they're not sure where they need to go, what you can do is figure out where that location might be. So from here, we're going to search for an address for that voter that came in. So if you notice here, that's where you put the house number. So in this case, in this one, I'll use 1781 East Melwood is what I'm looking for. So for the street name, what we do here is we only type in the first 3 letters of that street name. Okay, so leave off your east, your west, your streets, your avenues, your drives, all that, ignore it. Okay, I'm talking just about the street name. You'll put in the first 3 letters of that. In this case, I'll put in MEL for Melwood and hit search. Okay, and then it takes me directly to the address that I was looking for. Actually, you'll see here, 1781 East Melwood is the address that I pulled up here. Okay, and you notice here up at the top it says address is at the correct voting location. So in this case, this voter was okay to vote at your precinct, and then this is how you would look that up. Now, of course, if you needed to redirect the voter for any reason, you have a few different options here. Initially, if you want to show the voter on this map that I have here on the screen, you can rotate it and then flip the screen on over to a voter just like this, and you can show them where they need to be going for the day to go vote. So I'll take that, and to rotate the screen on back, all I need to do is tap that icon one more time, and that brings it on back for me. And of course, there's a couple other options here. So you can actually print out a little slip for that voter, just like this. And this will have the polling location, precinct number, as well as the address of where that voter needs to go. So again, if they're not quite sure when they need to vote and you're directing them to the right spot, that's an easy way to do that. From there, I just hit continue. Now, the last and pretty cool way that you can actually communicate to this voter, if you click that mail icon right there, you can actually email or text the voter directions to their polling place. You can text it to their smartphone, which will give them a link directly to Google Maps, and they can pull that up, and that'll show them exactly where to go. So there's a couple different ways here that you can do this, but of course, up to you and up to the voter in that situation. From here, so that's how you look up for a precinct lookup on a voter. I'll just go ahead and hit home and bring me back to the home screen. Okay, now that we've learned a little bit about how to use the ePollbook, I wanted to go over a few troubleshooting tips in case you're running into a few issues at the polling place. So first up, looking at the ePollbook, if your printer is not printing out tickets and for some reason it got disconnected, or maybe when you're setting it up, it just wasn't pairing quite correctly, this is how you'll go through that process to get it reconnected. Okay, so if you notice here on the screen, my printer is yellow. So what I'm going to do is, click on that printer's icon right there where it says yellow. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is click on Find Printer. Okay, and then if you notice here, if we just wait for a quick moment, this printer connection is going to show up right here on this screen. And so what we're going to do is reconnect this printer to this ePollbook. Okay, and so looking here, one thing to note is the printer 323, that number refers to the asset number of it. Okay, so when you're looking at your ePollbook, if you notice in the bottom left hand corner, there's asset ID 323. So you'll just want to make sure when you're at your polling place, because you'll have two printers, that the asset ID number of your ePollbook matches that asset ID number of the printer that you're trying to connect to. So in this case, I'll click on printer 323, and then that'll go ahead and repair that connection. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is hit test, just to make sure that it is working. In this case, I have my ticket, so I know that it is. And then I'll hit save, and now my printer should be reconnected. So that's how you reconnect your printer if you're having issues with that. Now, if you want to make sure that you're actually connected to internet, the way that you do this is looking at the ePollbook screen here. You'll notice where it has that caution symbol for me. So what I'll just do to make sure that I'm actually connected to the internet is I'll click on that caution symbol. Okay, and what that's going to do is pull up this little message that says heartbeat sent, and it has that little check. Okay, and so if it says heartbeat sent and it has that green check mark, then you know that you are connected to the internet, regardless of the icon that's coming up there. Again, even though it is that caution symbol, I know I'm connected because I was able to get that heartbeat sent. Okay, and so what that's doing is pinging our main server. So as we are following along at our office on election day, we can actually tell if you are connected to the internet or not. And so that's how you'll do that if in case you need to. If you notice, just for my test purpose here, I have no touchpads connected on that chain link. That just means that I don't have any other ePollbooks. As you can see, this is the only one I have, which is why that's there. Okay, so that's just in case you need to make sure you're connected to the internet. Now, maybe the application's running a little bit slowly for you. Maybe you're clicking around on it and it's just not loading as fast as you think it should be. A way to make sure that it gets back up and running pretty fast is if you double click here on your home icon, what you can then do is then close the app by swiping up just like that. I'll close that as well, and then that way that'll close that application. And so then if I click on this little button here where it says touch the icon to begin, I'll touch that, and then that'll reload the application. Okay, so if you're running into any slowness, that's what you're going to want to do in that situation. Okay, so that's how we look up a voter in case they need to find their precinct. Now, let's try to check a voter in. So the main way that everyone should be checking in voters is scanning the voter's driver's license. Okay, so we can actually scan the back barcode of their driver's license and check them in to the ePollbook via that way. So let's try this. Now, what you're going to do when a voter approaches you with their driver's license is you'll click on the driver's license/state ID scan, the big green button there on the right. Okay, and it'll ask you to place the barcode of that driver's license in this little box here. So what you'll do, and this is my example of a barcode on a driver's license, I'll go ahead and reach around the back of the ePollbook, now starting pretty far away. Okay, so I want to start far away and then move on closer in because the camera's a little bit zoomed in, so if you start really close and are trying to scan it, something like that maybe, you're not going to get it. Okay, so start far away and then move on in, and it should pick it up every time. So in this case, we went ahead and scanned that driver's license for this voter, and we pulled up their voter information. Okay, so of course, when we're checking to folks into the e-poll books, and this is very important, in the past, we have always asked the voter for their name and address, and we still need to do this even though we're using new technology. Okay, so in this case, once we scan their driver's license, we need to ask the voter for both their name and their address to make sure that we have the right profile up. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, when you ask the voter to verify their address, what you're going to do is follow along here on your screen and check just to make sure that that address that's pulling up on the voter identification screen is the same address that they are stating to you at the polls. Okay, so this is the voter identification screen. So of course, we scanned Peter Parker's driver's license and it pulled up his profile, and this is what will come up here for you. So you notice here you have the voter's name, of course under that is their address, as well as their birth year, okay, the ballot style that they need in this case, their voter ID, what county they're in, and status says active, meaning that they are an active voter in a voter registration. Okay, so from here, because what we need to do is check Peter Parker in, I'll hit yes, continue, okay, and that'll bring me over to the voter eligibility screen. So this screen here is what is checking to make sure that the voter can actually vote at your precinct in this election. Okay, so if it tells you, in this case, what it's saying is voter is eligible to vote. If it says voter is eligible to vote, that means that you are good to go. You can vote Peter Parker in this case. Okay, so I'll click Get Voter Signature. And then what this is going to do is turn this screen upside down. So what you're going to do is, flip this screen just like this, okay, and then you'll have the voter make their signature here on this line. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do a practice signature there. And then the voter will hit I accept, and once they hit I accept, that screen will flip on around, okay, and you'll bring it on back to you, and then you'll click on Issue Ballot, and from there, all you need to do is click on Complete Check-In, wait for your voter ticket to print out, and then you hit Continue. You'll take this voter ticket, and then the voter will bring it on over to the issuing clerk. Okay, so this ticket here tells us what ballot style that voter needs. And so this is very important that every voter needs to take this ticket to move on to the next step in the process to then get their ballot. Okay, and if you notice here on the screen it says, great job, voter has successfully been checked in. So once you see that on the screen there, what you'll do is click on Process Next Voter, and that'll bring you back to the home screen. Okay, so that's how we check in a voter in case they bring their driver's license to you, and you need to check them in that way. Now, of course, about 90% of those check-ins are going to be via a driver's license scan. So that'll be very easy and in a really cool and nifty way that we can check in voters pretty quickly and easily. So the next one I want to search here for you is we're going to go through a few manual voter searches and practice this way. So first up here, I'll click Manual Voter Search. So I'll do this in case the voter does not have an Idaho driver's license to present. Now, only an Idaho driver's license will actually scan via that barcode. So if they hand you, their passport, or maybe it's a concealed weapons license, those won't quite scan. In those cases, you'll need to use Manual Voter Search. So once we click Manual Voter Search, it'll have you actually select what identification type that they're showing you at the polls at that moment. Okay, so all you need to do is verify whatever form of ID that voter is actually presenting, you're selecting here on your screen. So in my example, I'll go ahead and select passport since that's what they are presenting to me today. And then from here, you have your Manual Voter Search screen. So you actually have a few different options here to go through. If you notice, the first one that it defaults to is last name and first name. And this is where you're always going to start when you're searching for a voter. Always start with their last name and first name. You do have a few other options here. You can search with their last name and house number, maybe their last name and birth year, address search or voter ID as well. So you can, start, getting a little bit more specific with those fields if needed, but you always will need to start at last name and first name. Okay, so the way that we do this, when we search for a voter's last name, similarly to how we searched actually for the address, we'll only use the first 3 letters of the voter's last name and first name. Okay, so in my example, we're trying to check in Captain Marvel. Okay, so under the last name, what I'll do for Captain Marvel is type in M-A-R under last name, and then I'll move my cursor and select out under first name, and then type in C-A-P for their first name, Captain. So in this case, once I have this in just like this, I'll just go ahead and click search. Okay, and then that should pull up the voter right away. Now in my case, of course, Captain Marvel, I'll definitely need to make sure that I have the right profile up. And so again, when you get to the screen, you'll need to verify that the name matches the name that they tell you, as well as whatever identification they present, as well as the address matches the address that they state to you. Okay, so in my case, of course it does, and I'll just go ahead and hit yes, continue to move on to voter eligibility. And again, this makes sure that this voter is eligible to vote in this specific election. So if you notice on the screen, it says voter is eligible to vote. So if it says this, I know I'm ready to go, and I can click on get voter signature. Once I click on that, the screen will then rotate again, right? And then we rotate it just like that for the voter. As they approach, we'll ask them to please sign on the line, just like this, okay? And the voter will hit I accept. The screen will flip on back, and we'll hit issue ballot. Just like with the last check-in, we'll hit also complete check-in, okay? And their voter ticket will print out, which again, you'll present the voter ticket to the voter, and they'll bring that on over to the issuing clerk. Then you'll hit continue, and it'll tell you, voter has been successfully checked in. Hey, great job. Process next voter. And that'll take you on back to that home screen again. Okay, so let's go through a couple more examples here because I want to show you some different messages that you might actually get depending on what type of voter that you're actually checking in. So if you click on manual voter search again, and we'll go ahead and maybe they're checking in today with a current student identification card, so maybe they're checking in with that, and then we'll go ahead and hit continue. So under last name, what I want to search here is for Bruce Banner. So again, as I noted before, you'll want to make sure that you're doing only the first 3 letters of their last name and first name. Okay, so last name B-A-N, first name is B-R-U. We'll hit search. We'll pull up Bruce Banner's profile. Okay, in this case, again, we'll verify both the name and the address of the voter. After we've done that, we'll hit yes, continue. And this will give us a different message. So in this case, for Bruce Banner, we have actually already received his mail ballot. So when it says mail ballot received up here in red letters, that means that this voter has actually already returned an absentee ballot and voted in this election. Okay, so it'll tell you that the voter is not eligible to vote, and it'll give you instructions to call our office in case Bruce Banner is confused about getting this message. Maybe he thinks he didn't return the ballot. In any case, he needs to contact our office if he needs to get that corrected. For you here at the polls, there's nothing more for you to do other than to click on Process Next Voter, again, because Bruce Banner, in this case, has already voted in this election. So, well, what if they have an absentee ballot out but haven't actually quite voted it? Well, let me show you what that message looks like. So if you click on Manual Voter Search, and again, we're selecting from the list what ID that they're showing us. In this case, maybe it was, again, a passport. So we'll select that and hit Continue. Now, under last name, I'm going to search for a voter by the name of Mary Jane. Okay, so under last name, I'll type in J-A-N, and under first name, I'll type in M-A-R, and I'll hit search. Okay, and it's actually going to have us select Mary Jane from this list. So all we need to do is select here, click on the voter right there, and then hit continue. Okay, and that'll pull up with their voter identification screen again. You'll just need to make sure that this is the right person that you're pulling up. You really need to make sure that the address is correct as well for that voter. You'll hit yes, continue once you have verified that information. And it'll pull up with a slightly different message. So in this case, it says mail ballot requested. Okay. Now this means that in this case, Mary has requested a mail ballot, but has not yet returned it to our office. Okay. So they can, this voter can surrender their ballot to you, meaning that they actually return their absentee ballot unvoted. And in that case, you would select yes, they are surrendering the ballot, and then you can vote them. Or if they do not have the ballot, what you'll do is just hit no, and you can still actually produce a ballot for them. Because once this actually information gets back to our office that Mary has voted at this moment, that means that they can't return their ballot regardless of if they try or not. Okay, so in this case, Mary doesn't have a ballot to surrender, so I'll just hit no. Okay, and then it'll bring you to the voter eligibility screen. Again, take notes of these messages that come up because they're very important. Okay, this tells us that this voter is eligible to vote. So if it gives me that green message, then I know that I can go ahead and click on Get Voter Signature, flip my screen on over there for Mary, have her sign on the line. The voter then, of course, will hit I accept. It'll flip on back to me. I'll click Issue Ballot, complete the check-in. It'll print out yet again another voter ticket here, just like this, and we'll hit Continue, and it'll tell us voter has been successfully checked in. Great job, process next voter. Okay, so going right along here, we're going to click on Manual Voter Search again and get a couple of different scenarios. So in this case, of course, the voter comes out and maybe they have a concealed weapons license they're presenting, so we'll select that and hit Continue. So under last name, I'm searching for a gentleman by the name of Frank Castle. So under last name, I'll select C-A-S for Castle, and under first name, I'll type in F-R-A for Frank, and I'll hit search yet again. Okay, and if you notice, the message on this screen says no voters were found in this location. Okay, so this message will pull up if this voter just doesn't exist within the system. Okay, so in this case, that's what that would look like. And in Frank's example, he would then need to register to vote. And so in that case, what we'll do is just go on back to the home screen and using this as an example. If a voter isn't pulling up, this is the screen that you'll see. So under Manual Voter Search, I just have a couple more here to check for you. So maybe they're coming in with an Idaho driver's license, so we'll select that and hit Continue. Under last name, I'm searching for a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Grimm, so under last name, I'll type in G-R-I. Under first name, I'll type in B-E-N, and I'll hit search. Okay, and notice in this example, Benjamin Grimm's address is protected. Okay, I know this because it says address protected here on the screen. So in this example, Benjamin is what we call a protected voter. Okay, and so these are special types of voters in which their voter registration information is not publicly accessible. Okay, so in Benjamin's case, he had gotten his address scrubbed from that list. Maybe in some examples, he could be a police officer. Maybe it's a judge that went forward and applied to have their address protected. So if you get a voter that has their address protected, all you need to do is make sure that you have the right name pulling up on the voter registration info. So whatever name that they give you and you check on their ID needs to match the name here on your voter identification screen. Okay, we are not to ask the voter for their address because again, there's nothing to compare that address to in the system since it says protected, right? So just make note of that. If it says address protected, we can still go ahead and check the voter in, but we will not ask them to state their address for us. So for Benjamin, of course, it tells you if the voter is eligible to vote. So again, trust your tools. If it tells you that the voter is eligible to vote in this election, then you can go ahead and get voter signature, continue on through the screen, have them sign on the line, and click on Issue Ballot for them. Complete the check-in, of course, and another voter ticket will print out just like this. From there, you just need to hit Continue, and it'll tell you that the voter's been successfully checked in. From there, you just need to click on Process Next Voter and move on to the next one. Now that we've checked in a few voters and got through that process, if they are already registered, now we're going to try a process in case that voter needs to get registered, okay? And so how this process works is that the voter will have to fill out one of these registration cards, okay? And so if they are not currently registered, you need to have them fill out this paper form every single time. no matter if you're editing a name, if you're editing an address, or anything like that, the voter always needs to fill out a registration card. So in this case, what I'll do is click on Manual Voter Search. And the reason why I do this is because I just want to double check in our system that the voter who is trying to register isn't already in the e-poll book. Okay, so in this case, I'll go ahead and select that and hit continue. So from here, I'm just searching for the name that I have here in the registration card. All right, so in this case, it's Captain America who's trying to register. So I'll go ahead and search just to make sure that this gentleman is not already registered. So I'll type in his name just like this, and I'll hit search. Okay, and then what it'll pull up is it'll say no voter found. Okay, and it'll ask you to search again in case they are already registered. But in my case, what I'll do, because I know that this person needs to register and I know that he is not currently in the system, I'll click on no voter found here, this big red button there. Okay, and this brings me to the Election Day registration page. So if you notice here, it says Election Day registration up at the top. And from here, you just need to go through the process of registering the voter. And so what we're doing is we're copying the information that they have filled out on the registration card here into the system, into the screen here. So again, we're copying the information that they filled out on the card into the e-poll book. Okay, so it'll ask you a couple of questions, of course. Is the voter a citizen, and if they're 18 years old? So in this case, I'll just refer to the card, and he checked both those boxes, so I will as well. And it brings you over to the basic information screen. So here, what I'm going to do is complete the name that I have on the card, right? Because we need to make sure that the voter who we are registering has their complete name in there. So I'll just go ahead and fill that rest in for Captain, right? And last name, of course, is America, so I'll put that in there just like this. And the birth date I have is January 1st of 1901, so I'll put that in there just like that. Under party, I'm again referring to the card. Box number 7, it says unaffiliated, so I'll select unaffiliated and then hit continue. And then from there, after we put in the voter's basic information, we need to search for the voter's address just to make sure that the address actually exists and is in Ada County. So in my case, I'll put in the house number, which is 1781. All right, the street name again is Melwood. So what I do here for the street name is only the first 3 letters goes into the e-poll book. Again, because this way we give the system plenty of options to search for that street. Okay, so the more specific that you are when you're searching for streets or searching for names, the less options that you may get, and it could prevent you from actually locating the right thing that you need to. So always put in less. Again, first 3 letters is all you really need here in order to find the right street. So in this case, I'll hit search. Okay, and of course, if you look up on this list, it pulls up the street that I need. So I'll just select it from that list there and hit continue. And there's a few other options here that'll ask you. It'll ask you if there's an apartment number. In this case, refer to the card. Okay, if there's no apartment number on the card, just click no. Now again, for mailing address, I'll ask you again to refer to the card, right? If there is no mailing address that they provide underneath their residence address, then you can leave the mailing address section blank. If there is a mailing address, all you need to do is check this box here that says edit/change mailing address, and then fill in the blanks there for their address. Okay, in my case, again, for Captain America, he only has the one address, so I'll leave that as is, blank, and hit continue. And of course, it'll have us verify his identification information that he provides. So in this case, he just provided the last 4 of his social security number, which is 1234. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that in just like this. Okay, and it'll ask you if they provided proof of identification and proof of residency. So when we are registering voters, they always have to provide their proof of ID and proof of residency. Okay, so in this case, I'll select this drop-down menu there and then click on provided. And the same thing for proof of residence. So I'll select that drop-down menu again and click on provided. And again, as the registration clerk who's processing voters as they're coming to your station, you need to be checking that they are presenting their proof of residency documents and the appropriate IDs, in order to actually register to vote. And so this here is just a marker to remind you that those need to be actually provided. Now, of course, it does give you the option to select not provided. However, if you select not provided, the voter will not be eligible to vote. So once you get to the voter eligibility screen, if you have not provided selected, it won't let you vote that person. Okay? Why? Well, because they always need to provide their proof of residency. So just make sure that you have that checkbox selected as provided in order to move on to the next step and vote this person. So I'll hit continue. And it'll ask you for any previous information. So this really is only if they're changing their name, if they were registered under something with someone else. So if they recently got married, for example, and they're changing their name from their maiden name, then that's where you put in information there. This isn't used a whole lot of the time. Most of the time it will be blank. Again, I'll just ask you, refer to the card. Okay, if it has information down there, then fill it in. If it has it blank, then don't worry about it. Okay, and so after I get past there, what it's going to immediately do is flip this screen on, and it'll have the information provided here for the voter. And so the voter is actually going to verify that we put in his address, his name, and date of birth, party affiliation, these types of things, and he's going to verify that that information is correct. Okay, so in this case, I'll just tap on correct, and then it'll flip on back to me. Okay, then all you need to do as the clerk is hit continue, and it'll bring you directly to the voter eligibility screen. Again, this should look familiar as we've checked in a few other voters in the past. So in this case, it'll tell us again, voter is eligible to vote. So it's checking to make sure that the address is actually in your precinct and that this individual is old enough and all these sorts of things. So just refer to those messages there. And of course, if it says voter is eligible, I can click on Get Voter Signature and go ahead and complete the process here just like the other few voters that we checked in earlier. Issue ballot, of course, complete check-in, and it'll print out another voter ticket. And again, this goes to the voter. They bring it on to the issuing clerk so they know what ballot style to give that voter. You'll hit continue, and it'll tell you, voter has been successfully checked in. Great job, process next voter. And this will bring you back to your home screen. Okay, so for this portion, I'm going to take you through some different options that you have in your 3-bar menu in the top right. So, at the very top you have same-day registration. So this here will take you directly to the election day registration page. Now, as I noted before, you need to make sure that you search for that voter to make sure that they are not already registered. Okay? So you may do it this way as long as you have already searched to make sure that they are not already registered. Additionally, here at the 3-bar menu, you have your poll worker payroll option. So in this option, this will allow your workers to clock out or yourself to clock out as well once you're done for the day. Okay, so similarly as you clocked in the morning, you want to make sure you clock out at the end of the day as well. Underneath that, you have spoil/cancel check-in. So this option gives you the ability to look up a voter that you've already checked in and spoil their ballot and reissue them another one. Now, in this scenario, you would only do this in case that voter made a mistake on their ballot. Now, it can happen. Maybe they selected the wrong candidate or accidentally made a mark somewhere. In that case, they can bring their ballot back to your check-in station. They can surrender their ballot that they made the mistake on. And then you can search for their name again here after clicking spoil, cancel check-in, and reissue them the correct ballot. So in this case, under last name, I will search for Captain Marvel because we checked her in earlier. So I'll go from there, type it in, and hit search. Okay, so from here, all I need to do is select on this item there. Okay, and then that you'll know it's selected once it's highlighted blue. And then all you need to do is click on spoil. And it'll ask you the reason for the spoil. So voter requested means that the voter actually made the mistake and is needing a new ballot. Administrative issues means that we made the mistake. So maybe they get their ballot and realize that it doesn't have the right candidates on it, and maybe we accidentally issued the wrong one. We can have it spoiled for admin issues, but more often than not, the case will be that the voter makes a mistake when they need a new ballot. So in this case, I'll select voter requested, and it'll ask us, are you issuing a replacement ballot? So we would select yes if they need to still vote their ballot. If you select no, that means that it's not actually going to replace their ballot and vote another one. So in my case, of course, they made the mistake and want to still vote, so I'll hit yes and hit continue. It'll then pull up with the message, are you sure you want to spoil the ballot? And so from here, we just confirm yes, we are sure we want to spoil that. And then it'll go directly to that voter signature page here, just like this. So we'll have them, of course, sign there on the line as we have before. Hit I accept, and going through the process here, issue ballot. We'll complete the check-in yet again. So as you can see, very similar to process to how we checked in a voter. Again, spoiling their ballot and reissuing them another one. So they'll take their voter ticket over to the issuing clerk yet again. We'll hit continue, and of course, process next voter. And then we're done with that section. So up here at the top, a couple other options you have. A precinct lookup, which is the same thing as find my precinct. It'll just take you to that page. The other one under that is check-in totals. So if you wanted to see, where you were at for the day, just a brief summary of how many check-ins you've processed, how many spoils you have, etc., you can click on check-in totals and take a look there. Underneath check-in totals, you have check-in logs. So this itemizes it a bit more specific to the actual voter information. So it's not just a summary of how many voters that have checked in, but it's also how the specific information for those voters and who they were. So in some cases, again, Captain Marvel, Captain America have been checked in, so you can actually go through and break that down a bit more specific if you'd like to. Some other options here, you have FAQs and phone numbers. So from here, we may add in some different frequently asked questions and things. That's where you can locate that. Of course, it also has our phone number on there as well. And of course, we also have a help guide section, which right now just has a basic troubleshooting guide on it, which can be very helpful for you. So that is always accessible from your 3-bar menu in the help guide. And so this may be helpful if you're running into a few little easy troubleshooting things right there. A couple of the last ones, you have reprint. So if you click on reprint, similar to how the spoil check-in, this will actually allow you to reprint a voter ticket in case maybe the lost one in between transit to the issuing station. You can reprint them another ticket right then and there. All you need to do is search for their name here in these fields and click on reprint there on the right side. And a couple other last ones. So enter wait time. We're not quite using this quite yet, but once we do, that's where you'll find the wait time function. And you can always report an incident. This isn't quite working for us because we're just not using it in that capacity yet. So this one you don't have to pay much attention to. And finally, of course, we have log out. So you'd click log out when you're ready to close the election. So in this case, maybe you're ready to go home for the day. Okay, you'd click log out. Or you might be logging out temporarily. In that case, what that means is the station that you're working at is going to have another person, swap in with you. Okay, and so if you click log out temporarily, that'll bring you back to your start screen, and then that will allow another person to log in under their own credentials. So you do this in case maybe you want to go eat lunch, right? You'd have the other worker come on in, and you'd log out and have them log in under their own first and last name, so we know who's working at this station at all times. Okay, so if you want to close out the election for the day, you'd click on your 3-bar menu here at the top, and you'd click on log out there at the bottom, and then it'll ask you if you're just logging out temporarily or closing for the day. In this case, we are closing for the day, so I'll click on that, and it'll give you a warning and say, hey, if you continue, the device will be locked, all processing will be disabled, and it'll ask you if you're sure. So in my case, this only comes up when I need to close for the day. Okay, so when you're ready to go home, that's when you would click that. And then from this warning here, all you need to do is hit yes, and then it'll synchronize on up. and then it'll give you all your check-in totals. So for me, I didn't do any check-ins here, but at the top you'll notice it says accounting. So if I click on accounting, this is the accounting that every single polling place at the end of the day needs to do. Okay, so once you're all done and you're starting to pack up your polling place, you'll need to make sure that you finish out your accounting once the polling once your polling place is being closed for the day. Okay, so this is how you go through the ballot accounting page. So you start here on the left with unused ballots. So all you need to do is touch there on that ballot style, again on unused ballots, and then click on that option there, and then it'll have you enter the total number of unused ballots. So in this case, maybe I had 15 left remaining, and I'll hit done. All right, and then all you need to do is move on over to the other ballots here. So I'll click on that, just moving on through to the next process. And you'll click on spoiled ballots. You'll let us know how many spoils that you've had for the day. In this case, maybe it was just one spoil, and I'll hit done. Curbside ballots. So in this case, maybe you had a curbside voter come up. So you could keep track of how many curbsides that you have. In my case, there were 0, so I'll just hit that and click done. And then you notice these green check marks coming up next to each of these options means that they have been filled out successfully. From there, I'll just hit next step, and that'll move me on to scanner totals. So typically we give at least 2 scanners to every precinct. So from here, all you need to do is click on scanner number 1 and enter the total number for that, for how many ballots that have been cast. In this case, maybe it was 100 on scanner 1, and on scanner 2, maybe there was only 20. So I'll just enter those just like this, and I'll hit next step, and it'll get you over to ballot reconcile. Of course, you'll notice here that I'm not balancing. Well, that's just because I didn't have as many poll book signatures on this one process quite yet. But when you're at the polls, that's how you actually go through that process for ballot accounting at the end of the day, before you all start packing up. Thank you all for watching the online ePollbook training. I hope it's provided a bit more insight into how we actually use these at the polls on election day. Thanks for watching.